The rain hammered against the windshield of James Morrison's sleek Mercedes, each drop a staccato beat in the quiet of the evening. The city streets were nearly deserted, slick with water and reflecting the dim glow of streetlights. James, a millionaire tech mogul, was not the type to pause his meticulously planned life for strangers. He had a critical board meeting in 20 minutes, the kind that could shift the trajectory of his company, Morrison Defense Technologies. His schedule was a fortress, impenetrable to whims or distractions. Yet, as he sped past a lonely bus stop, something made him slam on the brakes. There she stood, a solitary figure under the flickering light of the bus stop shelter. She was soaked to the bone, her military uniform clinging to her frame, yet her posture was unyielding, straight as a rod, defiant against the storm. The medals pinned to her chest gleamed faintly, a testament to her service. She was a soldier, clearly battle-hardened, likely just returned from a place where survival was a daily negotiation. James rolled down his window, the cold air rushing. "Hey, you planning to stand there until you freeze?" he called out, his voice carrying over the rain. The woman turned, her eyes meeting his with a guarded intensity that spoke of too many betrayals. "Thanks, sir, but I'm fine," she replied, her tone steady but weary. "No, you're not." James unlocked the passenger door with a click. "Get in." "That's not a request." Lieutenant Diane Collins hesitated. At 32, after 3 tours in the Middle East and a decade of impeccable service, she had learned to trust sparingly. But there was something in this man's voice, not arrogance, but a quiet authority born of shared pain. She slid into the car, her wet uniform leaving a faint puddle on the leather seat. "James Morrison," he said, extending a hand. "Lieutenant Collins," she replied, shaking it with a grip that matched his own. "Where are we going?" "Home. My home." James glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror as he pulled back onto the road. "You look like someone who needs a safe place to process whatever happened today." Diane closed her eyes, the weight of the day pressing against her chest. If he only knew. 3 hours earlier, she had been escorted off the military base where she had served for 10 years. False charges of insubordination had stripped her of her career, her benefits, and her dignity, all because she had dared to speak out about what she'd witnessed on her last assignment. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. James was silent for a moment, navigating the rain-slicked road. "Because I recognized the look of someone betrayed by the system they swore to protect." It was an odd answer from a man in a $200,000 car. Diane studied his profile, strong jaw, eyes fixed on the road, but carrying a sadness that wealth couldn't mask. "Did you ever serve?" she asked. "My wife did." His voice tightened, almost imperceptibly, "before she learned some enemies. Wear the same uniform as you." The car pulled up to a mansion that looked like it belonged on the cover of a lifestyle magazine. Perfectly manicured lawns stretched out under the rain, framed by towering windows and reinforced gates. Diane's trained eye caught the details most would miss. Security cameras on every corner. A subtle tension in James as he checked his phone. This was no ordinary home, it was a fortress. "Welcome," James said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "My daughter will love meeting a real hero." The word hero stung Diane with bitter irony. She was technically homeless, with $300 in her bank account and a career in ruins. But James didn't look at her with pity. He saw her as an equal, someone who understood that some battles were fought far from the front lines. Inside, the mansion was warm and opulent, yet Diane's instincts kicked in. She scanned the room, noting exits, cameras, blind spots, habits honed by years in war zones. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Daddy." A 12-year-old girl appeared at the top of the stairs, her curly hair framing a face that blended innocence with a maturity beyond her years. "Emma, come meet Lieutenant Collins," James said, his voice softening with unmistakable pride. Diane knelt to Emma's level. "You can call me Diane. Are you a real soldier?" Emma asked, eyes wide with fascination. "I was," Diane said, the word carrying a weight James noticed immediately. Later, over coffee in the kitchen, James leaned forward. "Want to talk about what happened today?" Diane hesitated, then decided she owed an explanation to the man who had opened his home to her. 3 months ago, during my last mission in Afghanistan, I saw something I wasn't supposed to." Her voice was steady, but the words were heavy. "My commander, Colonel Bradley Mitchell, was diverting medical supplies meant for Afghan civilians, selling them on the black market. Soldiers under my command died because we didn't have enough equipment, while he was funding a mansion in Virginia." James's eyes narrowed. "Did you report it?" "I followed the chain of command. Mitchell's second in command, Stevens, told me to mind my own business." Diane's voice dripped with irony. 2 weeks later, 3 of my soldiers died in a rescue operation because we lacked basic medical kits Mitchell had sold the week before. What did you do? I documented everything. Transaction records, photos of supplies being loaded onto civilian trucks, recordings of conversations. She tapped her pocket where her phone rested. When I got back to the States, I took it to the Pentagon, and they destroyed you for it, James said, reading her expression. Worse, they accused me of fabricating evidence and extorting a superior officer. Said I had a history of insubordination, a history that magically appeared overnight. Diane gave a humorless laugh. Within 72 hours, my career, pension, benefits gone. Is Mitchell still in command? Not only that, Diane said, her voice trembling with fury. He was promoted to general last week. James was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, do you still have the evidence? Everything. Backups in 5 locations. She studied him. Why? Because you might not be the first person Mitchell silenced. James paused, choosing his words. And maybe you found someone who knows how to use that evidence the right way. Diane raised an eyebrow. What kind of business do you run? James Morrison, the kind that teaches powerful men not every war is fought in uniform. He stood, retrieving a framed photo from a shelf. This was my wife, Rebecca. The image showed a woman in an Air Force uniform, medals gleaming, a radiant smile on her face. She discovered her commander was selling flight information to terrorist groups, information that led to 3 American helicopters being shot down. Diane's stomach sank. What happened to her? Suicide, James said, his voice flat at least. That's what the official report said. She called me the night before, saying she'd uncovered something big, something that would be in the papers the next morning. They found her body at 6A.M. The silence was heavy. James continued, I spent every penny investigating her death, uncovered a network of corruption that reached the top of the military. But evidence isn't enough when the judges are in on it, so you gave up. James's smile was devoid of humor. I didn't give up. I changed strategy. Spent 5 years building a military tech empire, billion-dollar Pentagon contracts, relationships with senators, generals, journalists. Sometimes, to beat the system, you have to become bigger than it. Diane processed his words. You're saying I'm saying it's time to teach General Mitchell a lesson about underestimating people he thinks are disposable. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Diane Collins. You should have kept quiet. Some truths cost more than a career. They cost lives. A friend. They know where I am, she whispered, her face paling. No, James corrected. They know where you were. Now you're under my protection. And trust me, Diane, the best defense is a devastating offense. 3 days later, Diane's life had become a bureaucratic nightmare. Her bank account was frozen for financial irregularities. Her landlord evicted her after an anonymous tip about suspicious activity. Her former colleagues stopped answering her calls. General Mitchell wasn't just silencing her, he was erasing her existence. He's using the classic playbook, James said, poring over documents in his mansion's office. Social isolation, economic pressure, credibility destruction. My wife went through the same. Diane clutched a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs, denying her medical benefits. 10 years serving my country, and I'm treated like a criminal. Emma appeared at the door, holding a cup of hot chocolate. For you, she said shyly. Dad said you're going through a tough time. Diane took the cup, touched by the gesture. Thank you, sweetheart. Mum was a soldier too, Emma said. Dad says women soldiers are the bravest people in the world, but not everyone gets that. After Emma left, James opened his laptop. I need to show you something. For 5 years, I haven't just built a company, I've built a network. The screen displayed a web of military, political, and media connections, senators, journalists, clean officers, who despised men like Mitchell. Are you suggesting an information war? Diane asked. Strategic justice, James replied. He opened another file. Rebecca didn't just get evidence on her commander, she got it on a network, including a young major named Bradley Mitchell. Diane's breath caught. Mitchell was involved in her death, not directly, but part of the scheme she uncovered. When she threatened to expose it, her suicide was very convenient. The next morning, Senator Patricia Williams arrived, a formidable black woman in her 50s, a former military officer known for battling Pentagon corruption. James told me about your situation, she said bluntly. I've known Bradley Mitchell since he was an arrogant major who thought rules didn't apply to him. Senator, I appreciate your concern, but let me stop you there. Lieutenant Collins, Williams interrupted, her presence commanding. 6 months ago, My committee began investigating military corruption in the Middle East. We have suspicions, but need evidence. You're a gift from heaven. Diane glanced at James, who nodded. What are you proposing? We stop playing defense. Williams said. Mitchell thinks you're a troublesome soldier he can crush. He doesn't know he's messing with an operation bigger than his ambitions. James opened a new file. While Mitchell's been destroying your life, my cybersecurity team ex-military, Rebecca recruited, has been monitoring his communications. He's not just selling medical supplies, he's selling military intelligence to contractors, overcharging the government, using soldiers as pawns for profit. That's treason, Diane murmured, studying the evidence. And tomorrow, Williams added, he's presenting to the Senate Defense Committee for equipment funding. Live on C-SPAN. Diane saw the plan. You want me to show up at that hearing, James said, not as an accused soldier, but as the lead witness in a Senate investigation, with senators, evidence, and national media. That night, Diane couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. James found her in the kitchen, nervous, determined. She corrected, You've been planning this for 5 years. I've been preparing for the right moment, James said. You're that moment, Diane. Rebecca would be proud. Diane touched her phone where her evidence was stored. He thought destroying me would destroy the truth. Men like Mitchell always make the same mistake, James said. They confuse silencing the messenger with silencing the message. The next morning, as Mitchell prepared his triumphant congressional presentation, Diane adjusted a lapel microphone, provided by Williams's staff. James coordinated with his tech team. When she identifies herself, send the files to all press contacts. No time for damage control. In the car to the Capitol, Diane's phone vibrated. Another message from an unknown number. I see you found powerful friends. Diane, too bad they don't know the whole truth about you. See you at the hearing. Someone who knows your darkest secret. Her blood ran cold. Mitchell had something on her, something James and Williams didn't know, something that could unravel everything. The congressional hearing room buzzed with C-SPAN cameras as General Mitchell took the podium, his uniform gleaming. Honorable Senators, our proposal protects soldiers with cutting-edge technology. He began confidently. Diane sat in the audience, James at her side. When Williams gives a signal, stand up and identify yourself, he whispered. We've got the rest. Mitchell continued. Unfortunately, problematic soldiers spread misinformation, tarnishing dedicated officers. Senator Williams leaned into her microphone. General Mitchell, I'd like to introduce a special witness with relevant information. Mitchell's smile flickered. Senator, I don't understand. Lieutenant Diane Collins, please introduce yourself. Diane stood, and Mitchell's face strained of color. She approached the microphone, her steps steady. Good morning, General Mitchell. Surprised to see me. Senator, this woman was discharged for fabricating evidence. It's those allegations she's here to testify about, Williams interrupted. But first, let's hear what Lieutenant Collins discovered in Afghanistan. James activated his laptop, sending files to journalists. Diane held up an audio device. Do you remember this conversation, General? March 15th, 2:30 p.m., your command tent. Mitchell's voice played. Colonel Stevens. Those medical supplies are worth $50,000 on the black market. Send them to the usual contact. Transfer my share to the Cayman Islands. The room erupted in murmurs. Mitchell leapt up. This is a fake. Interesting, Williams said. We also have these photographs. Screens displayed Mitchell overseeing medical supply transfers to civilian trucks, and bank records, James added, showing $470,000 in transfers to Mitchell's accounts. Who is this man? Mitchell demanded. James Morrison, CEO of Morrison Defense Technologies, James said. The man whose communication systems you used to coordinate your illegal operations systems that record everything. Mitchell stammered. I can explain, General Mitchell, Diane cut in. 3 soldiers died because you sold the medical equipment that could have saved them. Private Peterson, 22. Private Williams, 24. Private Rodriguez, 19. They died while you bought your 3rd house. Mitchell tried a desperate move. You don't know the truth about her. She killed civilians. That's why she was discharged. Diane smiled. Thank you for bringing that up. She turned to the audience. That's the lie he planted in my file after I confronted his corruption. James displayed the original report of Diane saving 16 civilians. Williams added, and here's Mitchell ordering that report altered. Mitchell's voice echoed. Destroy her reputation. Make up whatever you need. Mitchell collapsed into his chair, defeated. The cameras captured his fall as reporters swarmed. General Mitchell, Williams said, You're under formal criminal investigation. As Mitchell was escorted out, he muttered to Diane, "You don't know what you've gotten into." Diane met his gaze. "General, I've learned there are two kinds of soldiers, those who protect the innocent, and those who protect themselves from the innocent. Today, the country saw which you are." 6 months later, Diane stood in her new Pentagon office, reinstated as Major Collins, heading a military integrity division created post-scandal. Mitchell was serving 20 years for treason, his fortune confiscated, his family fractured. Diane had been promoted 3 times, her honors restored. She received an award for military integrity, and a new law protected whistleblowers, ensuring no soldier would face her ordeal again. At dinner, Emma asked, "Diane, do you regret reporting the general?" Diane looked at James and Emma, her chosen family. "The truth is an expensive luxury, Emma, but it's worth the price." Mitchell thought secrets cost careers. I taught him some silences cost souls. The best revenge, Diane learned, wasn't sinking to your enemy's level, which was rising so high they became irrelevant.